Hi everyone, I'm Andrew Knight and welcome back to episode 2 of the Brussel Sprout. Thanks so much to everyone that offered their thoughts, comments and feedback. It's been a great encouragement for me to continue making these videos. In episode 1, we heard about Brexit promises versus the reality of Brexit today. Today we'll be hearing about some people's thoughts on a couple of different topics regarding Brexit. First up for today, let's hear from Karen, who wanted to share her ideas for continuing the campaign to rejoin the EU.
First of all, I'd just like to quickly touch on why I think Brexit happened. I think there was a perceived lack of control on immigration, which consecutive governments had failed to address. I think the final straw was when Theresa May sent round her silly little vans with, if you're here illegally, go home. I also think there was a false sense of security amongst leavers, that the powers that be, the government, the powers that be, wouldn't do anything really stupid and bring the country down. And obviously that was famous last words. Of course, we are where we are. Brexit has happened and we now need to focus on rejoining. First of all, it's very easy to look at people like Steve Bray and think, oh, I haven't got the time, I can't match that. You can, when all this is over, go and join in, particularly if you're living in London. And secondly, everything we do, whether it's big or small, whether it's just pushing an event, a march, or whether it's signing petitions, try and do one thing a day. Everything we do, it all adds up. And speaking of petitions, so you really need to be getting them in the millions. They're not doing nearly well enough. So please sign and share them. Secondly, crowdfunding. It's very easy to say, I haven't got enough money. Well, just give a quid and retweet, because if 1 million people did that, think of the difference that it would make. One of the biggest crowdfunders that I like to push is led by donkeys, because they're constantly hassling and challenging the government. And I think, what could they achieve if they had an even bigger budget? So I do like to push that one. Social media, please don't underestimate it. It won the Leave campaign, the referendum. Whilst we're on the subject of social media, FPPE, so many people say, oh, it's just an echo chamber and, they're not interested. We are hassling people like Andrew Neil, JHB and the right-wing press. They are all hacked off with us. It is no echo chamber. It is the biggest, fastest moving pro-EU movement on Twitter. So please use the hashtag. Eventually, it will be proven that we Remainers were right. To some extent, that's happening already. I think that one day we, Britain, will rejoin the European Union. In the meantime, please stay strong and work hard.
Thanks, Karen. Yeah, agreed. Everything we do adds up. In regards to myself, I actually left the UK prior to Brexit and still do everything I can to oppose it, with the intention of getting back the rights and freedoms that were stolen from me and everyone else. As a British citizen, I can still vote, of course, but I can still use my social media presence to raise awareness of the mistake that is Brexit and the benefits of the UK rejoining the EU. I can still contribute to fundraisers and support and encourage and share new ideas and strategies. And obviously I can make YouTube videos to amplify other rejoiners. On that note, I'd now like to introduce Travis, who is in a demographic that has been completely ignored by the British government since 2016, a British citizen in the UK. I've asked him how Brexit affects him.
There's a lot to unpack with this. I guess we should start with how I feel about it personally, about Brexit, about the loss of EU citizenship, in particular loss of freedom of movement. Freedom of movement is something that my family have used more than most. I have lived and worked in the EU for a long time now. My auntie has lived and worked in the EU for a long time now. Her daughter, my cousin, lived and worked in the EU for a long time now. So we've definitely had a fair usage of this policy. It's been a big part of my family's story. It's been a big part of my story. I was 24. I went out to Spain looking for jobs, looking around, seeing what was out there, a bit of a jump into the unknown. For me, this is something I always wanted to do, really exciting, and I was able to just do it because of our EU membership. To have this not just removed, but to have the removal of freedom of movement prioritised, this has been suboptimal, let's say. There are some problems that we have already seen. There are some problems it's too soon to be able to see, and there are some problems that we could definitely foresee already. in Spain. One of these is state support in general in Spain. So that's unemployment, benefits, state healthcare, and so on. Healthcare, as an example, when we were EU citizens working here under contract, our right to these things was on the same basis as Spanish citizens and in general assumed. That is no longer the case, and this would especially affect newer residents, in that you would now probably have to obtain a certificate of entitlement, which is a lot of paperwork, a lot of confusing bureaucracy. A Brexiter might say to that, boo-hoo, you have to prove you're entitled to healthcare. What? Should they just believe you? Should they just give it you for free? Would Australia do that? Would America do that? No. Stop moaning. There's two things I would say to that. Imagine what that looks like from the perspective of the person. So you're sick. You go seeking healthcare. They tell you you need this certificate. So all of a sudden, while sick, you've been introduced to a new world of bureaucracy, confusing paperwork, a period of waiting, and not just waiting but uncertainty. While that's going on, you still got to live your life. If you've got kids to look after, you still have to do it. If you've got a job, you still have to go to your job. You cannot get paid time off or sick pay until you've actually got this documentation. And that is a bit of a nightmare. One thing I've never understood about Brexiters is that they're very keen to sort of round up their rights and their privileges and their accesses and just find an authority to give them to. So it's not enough for them that America and Australia and 100 countries makes them prove things, makes them jump through hoops, makes them go through bureaucracy, subjects them to controls, restrictions, quotas, fees and whatever. That's not enough for them. They demand that another 130 countries do that instead. They need France to give them similar bureaucracy and similar restrictions to what Canada gives them. They just need more countries to restrict them, more countries to give them paperwork, more countries to charge them fees. And I will never understand that mentality. The fact that access in Spain might not be assumed anymore, opening up a lot of paperwork, confusion, a period of uncertainty is definitely one problem we can foresee. We've seen this problem in Germany, where UK citizens in the pandemic couldn't access the unemployment benefits they needed. We've seen it in Spain, where UK citizens resident in Spain were trying to return from the UK with their green resident certificates, and they said no. They were either denied boarding or they got to Spain and then were denied entry. As for how it's affected me personally, I should probably start off and say that I'm maybe one of the luckier ones. Unlike EU citizens in the UK, and I won't get into this too much because I think it would be better for an actual EU citizen in the UK to get into this, but they don't have physical status. We do. Well, they have a very hostile government towards them. We don't. And because we have a physical status, we're less at risk of discrimination in housing and employment and so on. So in that sense, I'm lucky, and compared to British citizens here, unlike some of them, I'm not running an export business with people in the UK. I don't have UK clients. I receive my income in euros, not pounds. I'm not subject to terrible exchange rates. So in that sense, I'm lucky. But one loss I will have to absorb, I guess, is that although Spain is very much home to me, I was always very interested in studying opportunities and temporary employment opportunities in Germany and Austria especially. That now will be very impractical, very different, very difficult. And that's definitely a loss that I will have to absorb myself. Another thing that could affect me, and I guess any UK citizen in the EU, that we can't quantify yet, is the behaviour of the Tory government. I'm not sure if they don't realise or don't care that when they enact hostile policies against EU citizens, that could be reciprocated onto us here in the EU. And that is something that we'll have to watch out for over the coming years, unfortunately. But for now, I guess we'll have to remain hopeful.
Thanks, Travis. The loss of freedom movement definitely is one of the more painful losses of Brexit. I myself have a German background, but I'm not a German citizen. My freedom of movement was tied to my British citizenship. To have that right and those potential opportunities in life ripped away without my consent is one of the core reasons I oppose Brexit. Next up, we have the one and only Joel Backus.
I don't know if it's quite a new phenomenon, whether you could call it a phenomenon at all, but I'm coming across a lot of like hammy-gammy Brexiters who are now all admitting that they voted Remain, but I don't understand this. The first I saw it, I think it was last year. I'll get an example I saved. Luckily, I saved it because the account has now been suspended. Not surprised, probably, as it's a Brexiter, he's probably said something racist or, something hateful to someone from another country, which is why he's got to. But okay, so I think it was last year, a Brexiter called Andrew Hazard. I, like many other people, voted Brexit so we could have proper democracy and not be ruled by unelected commissioners. It has absolutely nothing to do with racism. Shame on you for thinking it. But dare I say, you're a disgusting woman. I don't know why. I don't know if it was aimed at me. Usually Brexiters call me woman. I don't know why. And then I found another. I found a tweet, and a later tweet from the same guy. I voted Remain reluctantly. I was undecided, even when I was at the voting booth. I went for what I thought was the safer option. However, after seeing how the EU reacted to Brexit and delving more into the aims of such as a European army, I am now a Brexiter. So it's quite strange. A lot of the Brexiters are now, basically making stuff. Well, as they've always done, making stuff up, saying I voted Remain to try and strengthen their argument, but it doesn't, because they're only doing that because they themselves have seen that there is absolutely no reason for Brexit, and in order to try and win a point, they need to make up something like I voted Remain, even though their entire timeline has been filled up with, with stuff against the EU. I don't know why. They're idiots as usual. So they have no. This is just clear evidence that they've just lost all arguments and need to now start saying that they voted Remain. Whether it's to trigger people. Oh, you voted Remain. What? No, I think it's just they've run out of arguments. So yes, I thought people might find that quite interesting. Other little industries that don't get covered as much, but it's all related to freedom of movement. And I thought it'd be quite cool. Well, not cool, but quite helpful just to highlight the importance of. I don't think it needs highlighting, but the importance of it. So, for example, there's this, the little, for example, the teaching industry, TEFL. A lot of the schools across Europe are now seeking English teachers who have dual nationality. And why is that? Well, if you have dual nationality from, say, you're French and English, or you're Irish and English, or Irish and British, whatever, you get the benefit of freedom of movement. And a lot of teachers who want to go and work and teach English on the continent are now finding that a lot harder. I actually have a friend who luckily has a German passport who was able to move to Portugal and use that EU citizenship to then start teaching English out there. So, very lucky. I did a TEFL thing. I can't really apply for these anymore because I don't have my EU citizenship anymore. So it's just another thing that, Brexit ruined for no real reason other than to, stop foreign people from coming in because they feel uncomfortable around people speaking other languages. Next one is just the lots of travel jobs, and got all the people who do seasons in France and Germany. A lot of these companies now are putting on their adverts saying you need to have the right to work in the EU. It's a bit like the TEFL thing. You need to have the right to work in it. It's not just filling out some form, as lots of Brexiters seem to think. Filling out a form will not give you that legal right to go and work in the European country that you're going to do. Where this is highlighted. So, for example, I'm trying to do. I've applied to do a master's in Norway. I know it's not in the EU, but it's in the EEA. As a third country citizen, I now have to apply for a permit which lets me work 20 hours a week while I'm studying. So it's a student visa or something, but it lets me work 20 hours a week. As an EU citizen, I don't have that 20-hour a week limit. So it's just, you know, all these little barriers that Brexiters just decided just to put up for no reason. No reason. But wait, they all voted to remain, but they've all now seen how badly the EU treated us. But yeah, no. So I just thought I'd just highlight those two little things where freedom of movement has been extremely useful to everyone. Lots of Brexiters say, "Oh, I didn't need to. I don't need my free movement." Yeah, you may not have needed it, but the door was always open. Whether you didn't have to exercise your freedom of movement rights, you didn't have to. But what you've done is you've just decided to stop other people from using their freedom of movement rights. And they say it's because of sovereignty. It's like, no, it's not. You want to stop people from coming in to the UK because you feel uncomfortable around people who have different colour skin or speak another language. I'm not sure if I should be allowed to swear on these videos, but F you, hammy-gammy Brexiters. Video out.
Yeah, I've encountered Brexiters making that same exact lie many times as well. I voted Remain, but here's why I've always supported Brexit. Sure, okay then. It's quite telling, isn't it? They have to resort to lying to give the impression that people are changing their minds in support of Brexit. This is one of the problems with their entire movement. Instead of trying to make the case for Brexit or convincing people it was worth stealing their freedom of movement for, they just make up lies. Either that or they abuse or intimidate people with the intention of silencing them. It's not the behaviour of a movement that will stand the test of time. Anyway, that's all for today. Please leave a like and a comment below, and if you would like to come on the channel to say a few words or promote something for the Rejoin campaign, let me know. I always appreciate any thoughts and suggestions, as always, any feedback, even if it's constructive criticism. As always, thanks for watching. Until next time.